Going to have a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. Papers still focusing on the political fallout of the presidential election. Of course, the Socialist Party doing some major soul-searching today. Former Socialist Prime Minister Manuel Valls saying, as we were reporting yesterday, that he's going to join Emmanuel Macron's movement in upcoming parliamentary elections. Flo is back with us after her coverage of the elections. Good to have you back on the programme, Flo.
And that is, of course, the real shocker today. Manuel Valls saying he's ready to go en marche. He said this on the radio yesterday. He went even further than that, though. He had some very harsh words for his political family. He said, the Socialist Party is dead and behind us. And so you can see here, Aujourd'hui en France, saying it's the end of the Socialist Party. The party is on the verge of an implosion. And you can see here the symbol of the Socialist Party, so the fist holding a rose, while you can see the rose has been chopped off.
And a lot of other papers talking about roses today.
A clever front page for 20 minutes today. It's an expression, être envoyé sur les roses, le PS envoyé sur les roses. That means to be violently brushed off. And so essentially 20 minutes is saying that the Socialist Party has been violently brushed off by Manuel Valls. You can see a photo here of happier days, I guess perhaps the last happy moment. This was during the primary back in January, the final round there between Manuel Valls and Benoît Hamon. Of course, Benoît Hamon went on to win the primary, but lose out very badly in the first round of the presidential election.
Well, of course, Valls' announcement, rather symbolic of a deep crisis, really, within the party after he initially wanted to represent the socialists in the presidential election. And he's not the only socialist jumping ship now to join Macron.
If we go back to Le Parisien, they have a really interesting editorial today that says that what we're seeing is the Uberization of the Socialist Party. Now, Uberization of the economy, that's a catchphrase people use when they're talking about Macron. Well, his political movement is like Uber, according to Aujourd'hui en France. En Marche is essentially a political startup based on mobility, collaboration, in touch with voters, but without a middleman. And the Socialist Party, stuck in the old world, was essentially Uberized by a more daring and innovative party. And it's not the only historic party in France that's in Macron's crosshairs, according to Le Parisien.
Yeah, it's not just the socialists that Macron needs, is it? He's hoping some of the conservatives are going to come over to him as well.
And he needs the conservatives and the socialists if he wants to form a majority in parliament, and he needs that majority in parliament if he wants to get anything done. You can see here La Croix. I really like this this cartoon. You can see him kind of like a Pied Piper here, leading away these puzzle pieces. You can see the puzzle pieces are coming from the Socialist Party, the pink puzzle, and Les Républicains, the blue puzzle. And in the meantime, as these puzzle pieces go en marche, they're disappearing. So it's quite a clever cartoon there. Yeah. And if we take a look at La Croix, the Catholic paper, they put it a different way. Essentially, Emmanuel Macron is a bowling ball, shattering the current political landscape. Macron is shaking up the game, according to La Croix.
In the meantime, President François Hollande, he's holding his final cabinet meeting today, part of his goodbye tour, if you like, before he hands over power on Sunday.
L'Opinion is focusing on his goodbye tour with a very clever cartoon by their political cartoonist CAC. You can see Hollande here at a goodbye party, if you will, with his economy minister, Michel Sapin. It's a little bit small, so I'll read it for you. Essentially, he's opening a present with a card that says, "We'll miss you." And Hollande says, "Oh, this is nice. Who is this from?" And Sapin says, "It's from all the political cartoonists." And the gift he's received, that's the key detail. It's a comic book about Gaston Lagaffe. Gaston Lagaffe is an iconic cartoon here in France about a very clumsy, slightly lazy guy. So it seems like political cartoonists are going to miss their own Gaston Lagaffe.
Well, the left-wing daily Libération, they've actually been following Hollande around now, haven't they, for about a week, actually, to see how he's wrapping things up.
Behind the scenes of a departure, that's what Libé says today, with a pretty incredible front page, a very interesting photo there of François Hollande. Looks like he's howling at the moon, perhaps. Libé got total access to Hollande for a week, his thoughts, his reactions, including to how he reacted to Macron's election. So it's really interesting if you want to read. And he says, well, Libé says, essentially Hollande, as he's leaving, is reflecting on his mixed track record and his very divided political family.
Now, speaking of political divisions, the far-right National Front facing its own soul-searching moment after Marine Le Pen's defeat in the presidential runoff.
And you were talking about her niece, Marion Maréchal-Le Pen, a rising star within the National Front Party. Well, she has announced and caused quite a shock that she's leaving politics. Now, remember, she is one of the National Front's two MPs, the youngest MP in French presidential history, French political history, I should say. She's 27 years old, so she's very young, and she explains in a long letter to this paper, the Dauphiné Libéré, which is a southeastern paper, why she's not going to run for re-election in the upcoming legislative elections in June. She says it's a part of an emotional upheaval underscored by personal and political reasons. But to quote the article, she says, "You know my story. I've been in politics my whole life. At 27, it's time for me to leave." That being said, she says, "I'm not giving up my political battle." So she might make a comeback one day. She might just be waiting for the right moment.
I think that could be a little bit of that in there. We shall see. Thank you very much, Flo. Flo Villemanet back with us on the programme. She's been off covering politics.